Hey, what's up everybody? twystidj here, and this is my retro buying gaming tip. So I'm actually going to be sending out some invites real quick, so um for chat. So hold on a second, I'll be right with you. Let's go to my YouTube. We're going to go to Kick. Nope, wrong one. Switch account. Sorry about the wait, you guys. But like I said, this is kind of my new video. So my videos. Let's go live. So we're actually gonna go share this to my Kick. We're gonna send this to a couple of Kicks. So we're gonna copy and paste that. And we are also gonna do it right here. All right, there we go. Easier moderation. No one's here yet, but thank you for whoever gave me a thumbs up already. I greatly appreciate that. So, and also I'm actually going to send this to my girl Jamie. So, send one more share over her way. And here are a few tips that I'm actually going to give you guys on buying retro. Ooh, already got 3 views. Nice. Let's share that again. There we go. Whoop whoop. What up, Batgirl Jamie? Okay, so tip 1. I was actually researching why games. Here's one tip. You should always search your local neighborhoods where you guys live. If you're looking for retro video games, definitely I definitely recommend you go to your local neighborhood collectible shop if you guys have one. If not, if you live close to one, I recommend you try there. Sometimes it does help going to garage sales because there are some people that do have them, but not very many of them do. You just have to call in advance, kind of do your legwork first to really do stuff like that. So, um, and I know this is kind of one of those videos that you try not to bring the big company's name up, but GameStop is notorious for keeping their prices down on their stuff. Um, and disc replays and all of those kind of places and media replays and any place that is kind of a big chain store in your area, they're most likely going to have the best selection of hot games. Um, and one of my best friends just asked me, she's like, "Do you know anybody that has a Super Nintendo?" Not right now, I don't. Um, Not offhand, but those are some of the tips that I actually really like. Um, Reasons why I would actually suggest you go to GameStop over possibly an Amazon because sometimes Amazon's a little bit high on their prices, but on certain things. Um, because they go by the actual value of what a game really goes for, and I think that's why games are really, really high in prices because of big companies that are making high dollar off their item. And plus, people are selling them on there for their regular price for the price of the actual game. Um, that's another reason why I would actually say go to your local game stores and whatnot because I actually feel like that is definitely one of the high ends because I'm not blaming Amazon for their high prices on their retro video games, but yeah, retro video games are kind of a hot ticket item right now. Super Nintendo and all that kind of stuff. All right, back. All right, Juggalots are us. Awesome. I'm glad you did. Thank you. Um, if you go to a GameStop, which I know GameStop's kind of a dirty word because they want you to buy used and they want you to sign up for their power up and they want to add a bunch of extra things to it. And they're kind of the image for what's wrong with running stuff like that. Yeah. If you go to a place like Disc Replay or Media Reload or whatever, or a GameStop, yeah, most likely you're going to pay less for a game in there that you're going to pay hundreds of dollars for, unless you're actually into the Sega Saturn, which you're probably going to pay $100 for a game anyway because the games are ultra freaking rare. Like I came off and I bought games at me and Batgirl Jamie's local hangout spot to go get our retro fix. It's called Collectibles Unlimited. I literally paid $22 in the. Actually, I told you guys in the video, um, in my last video, that I bought 6 games for $22. Which, yeah, if I would have paid over 25, I probably I probably would have paid 25. Anything for anything that high that's in that, and most of the games I bought were GameCube, and they were all complete in box. Um, even though some of them were damaged cases, had damaged cases, which after years you're pretty much not going to get the best case of it. Yeah, GameStop in the other on the other end, yeah, you're probably going to pay for a case, or they're just going to hand you a slip or a sleeve with a couple of games in it. Um, yes, we also did a video of our CD review for Muerte from Ex Murder Boys. So if you guys haven't checked that out yet, please go do it. Um, but that's why retro video game hunting is kind of a big thing right now. I actually feel like it's actually growing. And even if you could find a swap meet near you that actually sells video games, which God forbid you will find a swap meet, here's another tip. When you go to places like that, make sure you always have cash at hand. Um, because a lot of those vendors, they don't deal with credit cards, they want the old fashioned money. They don't do anything electronically. Well, maybe some of them do, but always make sure that you have cash at hand when you do swap meets and stuff like that because most people don't dabble with that shit. Um, which they usually have those at convention centers and stuff like that. So, and also remember that there are gaming companies out there that are doing repros. Companies like Limited Run Games that are coming out on the Nintendo Switch and the PS4 right now. Which, sorry for that little sniffle. There are companies coming out with brand new games, just like the games you would play back in the 90s, early 2000s, and on cartridge based system too. Because actually, if you hold on a second, I might actually have one that just came out. I want to say a couple of years ago, maybe. That I could probably give you an example of. So, which I should let you know that I did buy it on Amazon because it was actually a really good deal. And plus, they do make brand new carts. So, okay. Here's one right here that I actually bought off of Amazon that I think I only paid like $18 or $20 for it. Which, if you're buying a brand new game, which it's from Blaze Pro, which used to be a bunch of guys that used to work with SNK Games. And you see, I keep it right in its case just because I don't know if this game will ever be worth any money. And you've got stuff like this and stuff like, well, also that. It literally tells you exactly everything that you need to know. And yes, this is SNES compatible, so which I don't know if it's actually compatible inside the SNES right now in the actual SNES, but I know it works in my cart loader because I've got a Retron 2. But like I said, there are companies that are actually making games in cart format for retros and reprods. Which this game, basically your typical fighter, obviously. I actually feel like sometimes you could get away with doing stuff like that. Because it's actually a really nice way of, but here's a few tips. If you look for games like that, and I think there's also one called Haunted Halloween 1985 or 1986. I think I found that on Amazon, and I think they're relatively cheap. But if you go to like retro conventions and stuff, retro video game conventions, most likely you're going to be able to find those games there, probably for a little bit less, but maybe not. I don't know. Some ways Amazon is actually good for buying retro video games, especially if they're rebooting games. Um, but also there are also multi carts that not a lot of people buy because there are a lot of people that actually want to buy the actual physical copy because they could actually say, "Oh, by the way, I have this copy or this copy." Multi carts are nice because you don't have to have the inventory for them. Like, hold on, I'll actually give you another example right here. 143 games in one, right there. Definitely, if you don't want to store a bunch of games, bunch of retro games in a collection, this is your best bet. This will be your best friend because most likely you will find games on this system on Nintendo or Super Nintendo or whatnot, and also that too. And also having a Retron 2 is actually kind of Retron 2, Retron 1, Retron 2, Retron 3s are actually kind of nice because if you like those old school gems from the play or not the PlayStation, the Sega Genesises, the NESs, and the SNES games, yeah, it's very nice to have those type of things, but you could get um you could get basically a clone system for less than you could actually pay for your actual NES. Now, I've got the Retron 2. Me and Batgirl Jamie, aka the Juggalettes Are Us, we've got the Retron 2, which only does NES and SNES games, which it also does Super Famicom games, but you would actually not regular Famicom computer system games. You could actually play the NES games, the Super NES games, and the Super Famicom games, because Super Famicom games are basically the same thing as as the SNES, but they do a lot of Japanese titles too. So that's another way to go. It'll actually help you find and it'll actually help you keep your costs down on video games. And another tip I can give you is that like I said, oh, hold on there. Gonna take a drink, guys. Um, if you don't want to spend a ton of money, sometimes buying the import is a lot cheaper than buying the American made version. For example, I think it was the Sega Saturn. There are games on that system that are going for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, just like there are games on the SNES and GameCube that are going for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Um, Sometimes your best bet is to wait for and I think Metal Jesus said this best. He said sometimes it's actually better to wait for for a system's games to drop in price to start getting them. So waiting is your best bet for that kind of stuff. And if you're not patient enough for that, you can always go get you can always go around and you can always get the Japanese imports of the same game. Most of the time you can get them for Japanese imports for less money than what you would pay for an SNES card, first party SNES card, or an NES card. You could always go get that Japanese or even Sega games, which Sega games are relatively cheap right now. You can literally go to game stores and buy 20, 30 games. Actually, even if you go out to garage sales, you can buy those systems for $50 with 20 or 30 games, which is kind of nice because if you live in a neighborhood where you know people that buy games like that, yeah. Um, but there are games like Conker's Bad Fur Day. If you have the actual N64 version of that game is selling for 75, $80. Yes, Dreamcast is very much alike the same way. And that's another system that is ungodly expensive to buy for. And oh yeah, it's still very expensive because which I think the prices on those games are actually going to be dropping quite a bit anyway. On those games, but there are a lot of games out there that are very, very expensive, that are inexpensive in the Japanese market because they made so many copies of it. It's like, okay, Pokemon, for instance, you go get a Japanese version of Pokemon Yellow or Green or Blue or Red. Um, you're probably only going to pay. You're actually probably going to pay less for that copy than you are for an American copy. Yes, it wasn't around very long. I like Crazy Taxi on it though. Yes, and I almost considered buying Crazy Taxi on the GameCube from GameStop because that was another game. That's another game that we absolutely love. Love, love, love. Because it's just one of those weird games that got platformed over into the GameCube. I actually felt like it was actually a really good game for the GameCube, and it also brought those style of games to the forefront of the GameCube. Games like Simpsons Hit and Run, Simpsons Road Rage. Um, see, those are very, very big games that ripped off the blatant obviousness of Crazy Taxi because they wanted to have that kind of fun. And it was kind of oh god, what game, like Grand Theft Auto kind of started the whole thing out. Then they came out with the 3D imaging type stuff on the Crazy Taxi stuff because that was one system that on I think it was Dreamcast. They came out with that game on the Dreamcast, and they literally said we're going complete 3D driving, and this was way before Grand Theft Auto 3 came out. Oh yeah, definitely. And they made a spectacle of it. And there's also games like the Burnout games, which nobody really played the first two until Burnout. Oh, what was it? Burnout 3? Because I actually felt like Burnout was actually one of those games that was actually revolutionary for all the systems. And you kind of have to thank Crazy Taxi for that too, because. But there was also one other game that came out years before it that came out on the PlayStation 1. That was Die Hard trilogy. Which, if it wasn't for Die Hard trilogy and Carmageddon and all those style of games that came along during that era, you probably wouldn't have seen games like Crazy Taxi taken to the forefront the way it did. Um, so, other than that, those are just a few tips that I have that you guys can take it or leave it. It's all good either way. And there are a lot of games out there, and sometimes your best bet is just to figure it out for yourself and figure out what your cheapest bet is. If you live close to a GameStop or a Media Replay or a Disc Replay or a Media Reload or whatever they're called, if you live close to one of them, instead of going to Amazon, which is nice because of games like this, they only charge 20 to 25 bucks for these kind of games, which are repros. Um, so that is probably your best bet. And sometimes finding um, games like games like that are basically being reproduced for clothes systems and stuff like that are absolutely amazing because sometimes the best bet is to try to find games like that. Um, which I'll have to bring this game back over to Batgirl Jamie's in a couple of weeks, the Unholy Night, because I think me and her might just tear through that game one of these days in the next coming weekends. So I just want to say thank you guys for watching this video. I'm twystidj, and remember to comment, rate, and subscribe, and check out my friends Batgirl Jamie, and also check out our show, The Juggalots Are Us /Juggalo Family Vloggers. And also, if you haven't added us as a friend on Pokemon Go, please do. We'll have the link. We'll put a link down below for you guys. So thank you guys for watching. And also check out our Teespring store because we're always coming out with brand new fresh merch. So I'm out. Thanks for watching. Goodbye, everybody. Bang, bang.